Welcome back to Chapter 16 of Price Analysis. This video should conclude our discussion of Chapter 16. So let's take a look at what futures markets we have available to us in the hog market. So it turns out we have what's called the lean hog futures contract, and that trades on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. If you click through on this link, you'll see the familiar format for the CME price quotes. And you'll see here we've got a December live lean hogs contract, February, April, May, June, July, August, so October and December. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 contracts per year in the live cattle contract. And if you're interested in the contract specifications, you can come over here to this tab and you can see that the contract unit is for 40,000 pounds. The price quote is cents per pound or dollars per hundredweight, depending on how you want to look at it. And you can see here that this contract is financially settled. That means there's no delivery on this contract. And that's about what we need to know. All right, back to our text. So there's only one futures contract for hogs on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And you're probably wondering why there aren't two, because the hog market isn't that different than the beef cattle market. And in the beef cattle market, we have the feeder cattle contract and the live cattle contract. The feeder cattle representing light calves that haven't been fed out yet, and the live cattle contract representing fattened calves that have already been through the stockyard process, where they've been eating grain and putting on weight to get to appropriate slaughter weight. So there are a variety of reasons why a futures contract might exist or might have been tried in the past and been not successful. But there are a couple of current reasons that make it so that there's really no need for another hogs contract. So we've talked a lot in this chapter about industry consolidation. And if there's only a few firms in the market, then that's not very many firms who need to hedge risk. And futures contracts are usually successful if there's a lot of different entities who need to hedge their price risk. So a few hedgers, it's not, the prospects don't look that good for having a successful futures contract. And again, what I mean by successful futures contract is volume and a lot of trading and a lot of liquidity in the market. So also, that means that the few firms that are there, if there's vertical integration, then they can really hedge their risk with one contract, because they're not really buying and selling. The price that they're buying at is based on a formula compared to the price that they can sell for, or vice versa, which means as long as they can hedge one price point along that contract, along that production cycle, then the other prices are just a differential based on that, and they don't need to hedge that spread. Whereas in the cattle market, you have different entities who are raising the small calves, and different entities who are doing that middle range feeding, and different entities who are feeding out the cattle to market weight. And so they have true price exposure on both the buy side and the sell side. So it kind of makes more sense to have a futures contract to allow them to hedge both sides of that price risk. It is worth noting, though, that we used to have a frozen pork belly futures contract, and that only stopped trading in 2011. Now, that's not a livestock contract, because that is a contract that represents a product after slaughter has taken place and after the whole butchering process has happened. And if you don't know what pork belly is the stuff that bacon is made out of. And if you happen to be a meat eater, it's just about the most delightful meat you can eat, prepared in a variety of different ways. Bacon being probably the most common in the U.S. way to consume pork belly. But that contract ultimately lost all its volume and ended up being delisted by the exchange. And concentration in the hog industry is probably part of the story of the demise of that contract. And apparently our consumption of bacon used to be really seasonal, and the production of pork was also seasonal. So you needed to put the pork belly in the freezer from the time we were slaughtering hogs until the time we would like to eat bacon. So there was this time dimension of a need to hedge the price risk in pork bellies. But now we eat bacon all year and we produce and slaughter pork all year, so that timing dimension went away too, and ultimately the contract was delisted. Alright guys, so that pretty much ends what we're going to do for chapter 16. To accompany what we're going to do in the lab on Thursday, I will go through the parts of the appendices that we need in order to do some basic time series econometric forecasting. So that'll be coming up with the information for Thursday. Alright guys, I will see you later, and happy studying.